So it was the toughest fixture of their Champions League group. Real Madrid went away to Napoli and won 3-2 in what was a thoroughly enjoyable game of football. Both sides played some great stuff, but Jude Bellingham stood out above the rest as he created one and scored one. Did this game live up to the hype? Well, this was one of the most highly anticipated Champions League group games Real Madrid had for years. Going away to a club like Napoli this early in the tournament added a sense of importance and jeopardy that Real Madrid rarely experienced in the group stages. So many star players involved on both teams, we all kind of suspected we were in for a treat. So, did the game live up to its hype? Bet it did. It was one of the best quality football games of the year. Both sides put on a spectacle, while the stars shone like we expected them to. And in the end, Real Madrid secured the 3 points to take a huge step towards the last 16. How would the Bellingham-Vinícius-Rodrygo front three look? Well, this was Real Madrid's 10th game of the season. Only the fourth time that they've started with Bellingham, Vinicius, and Rodrigo as the front three. Well, it was a tough test. We got to see just how lethal it could be, especially with Bellingham playing as good as this. The Englishman did ever so well to intercept and assist Vinicius for Real Madrid's first goal before Bellingham scored a super solo goal of his own. Overall, the trio had some nice combinations in attack. More still demanded of Rodrigo, whose place is under threat from Joselu, but this was a good try to watch. So, Real Madrid will once again go far in the Champions League. It's important to keep the yellow cards to a minimum in order to avoid a costly suspension in the knockout rounds. And considering that card-happy Clement Turpin was the referee for this game, Los Blancos had to be careful. The French referee showed the third most yellow cards in the competition last season, averaging 4.67 per game. So we expected some bookings in this match. In the end, there were a total of 4 bookings, and there were several unnecessary ones for Real Madrid players. Camavinga, Bellingham, and Kepa all went in the book tonight to join Tchouameni, who's booked against Union Berlin. They'll all have to be careful over the next Champions League games as cards aren't cleared until the semifinals. So, a few exciting things. So what was that speed of that Valverde rocket? Well, it didn't go down as his goal. The Napoli players teased him that, you didn't get the goal. It ended up being an own goal. And since it bounced back off the crossbar and in off Alex Merritt, but you know what? The strike was worthy of winning any game. We all know that the Uruguayan can hit them. This shot seemed to be carrying extra venom. Just how quickly was it traveling? How did it not break Merritt's hands? It was an absolute rocket. Was the penalty the right call? It didn't really matter in the end thanks to Valverde's strike. But the penalty call to allow Napoli the equalizer would still be talked about long after this game. It was controversial. Although Nacho's hands were high up and hit the ball when he went to defend a cross, everyone who was watching, there's no other place for the center back to put his arms while making that defensive move. The handball rule really needs to be looked at. What must Mendy and Fran Garcia be thinking? Well, when Camavinga started at the left back ahead of Mendy and Fran Garcia in Girona, it's a hybrid role. It was certainly a surprise, but it made some sense. One off, people said okay, but now it's becoming a regular thing. So when Camavinga started off as the left back for a second game in a row, with the other 2 natural left backs both available again, we really had to wonder what was going on. So what must Mendy and Fran Garcia have been thinking as they took their seats on the bench? If they thought the decision was unfair, well, Camavinga once again showed them that, his athleticism, his reading of the game, he is as good as a left back as anybody. And it works for Real Madrid as a collective. So eventually, with the converted midfielder on the yellow, Ancelotti decided to swap in Mendy. But that must be a concern for Mendy and Fran Garcia if that's the only way to get ahead of Camavinga. And one of the reasons Ancelotti started Camavinga ahead of all this, because they got Fede Valverde, they got Jude Bellingham, Cruz controls the game a little bit, Tchouameni, he pivots the game. So they need these athletic guys who can bring in the verticality of the team. That's what their strength is, to beat beat their opponents on the transition. And that's how it works out for them, and that is why Camavinga is very, very important.